Hi there, this is Sebastian from Metal Express. I'm here to give you a look inside the book of Bladestorm Second Edition, which is now released as PDF and hardcover print on demand. We have a look over here. We see that this book is now considerably larger than the old manual from the box set from 1990. Bladestorm has about 191 pages, and it comes with a lot of improvements. Now let's have a look. If you know the old rules book, then you will find this index quite familiar. We start off with a basic game that covers the standard mechanics. Then comes the intermediate game that expands on those. Then the standard game, which is the sweet spot between complexity and, ease of play. What's new with the standard game is that magic has now been moved from the optional rules to the standard game, and magic has also been expanded by mentalism spells. Then come the optional rules, and they are followed by campaign rules. And the campaign rules basically bring you party management and experience points, because now in between battles you can distribute experience points and improve your characters. The appendix then brings everything, ties everything together with with skill cost, stat cost, weapon costs, and the total point cost that give you the opportunity to build balanced games. Now let's have a look. How do we start? We start with Welcome to Bladestorm chapter. It is a general overview about what this game is about, what it enables you to do, and it has some information for returning Bladestorm players because it has been around for quite a while. Changes from first edition also cover that spot, and then we move on to mounting miniatures on bases. And as you can see here, Bladestorm works with square bases, and they come in certain sizes. We have small bases for the small combatants like goblins and gnomes and halflings. Then we have the standard base size. It's a 1-inch square base. It is used for dwarves, elves, ghouls, and of course the humans, orcs, and maybe also wolves. Then come the large size combatants like demons, basilisks, elementals, giants. They use the 1.5-inch square base. Everything above that is considered a huge creature, and huge creatures can have any kind of base size, whatever fits underneath that miniature. Something that's also new is that where Bladestorm First Edition was strictly only used for area movement, we now have the opportunity to use gridded movement, and there are lots of nice maps out there that make use of that. And as this page shows, you can also use the game mechanics and the different sizes of bases to also use them on grids. Here we have the glossary. The glossary is very helpful because it has a definition, a small definition for most of the game terms that you will find later on. We'll try to improve it and have all the game terms that are really relevant to the game in it. It has also been expanded quite a bit thanks to the new concepts and features. The quick start rules and the basic game enable you to grasp the overall concepts, and all this tied together with this little scenario, Warriors of Ash, where you have one sea troll battling it out with 3 goblins like Crow, Bark, and Montu. The game introduces the first and most important turn sequence, which is now represented as a little chart, the turn sequence diagram, as we like to call it. And you have an initiative in the beginning of the game, only once, not before every round, but only before the first round. And then the initiative tells you which player can start. It is player 1 and which player is player 2. And then it moves on to take you through the little phases. Here is then the phases explained with the first small encounter. and then it is followed by the intermediate game. The intermediate game introduces ranged combat, missile combat, and that's also goes along with an expansion to the turn sequence. Now we have the initiative, once on only, then we have movement, then we have melee, and then the other player does the same. And while we do our movement phase, we can also use our ranged weapons. Something that changed from the first edition, that you can now move up to a quarter of your movement rate and still fire your weapon. First edition was very strict, and that every miniature had to stand its ground and fire or move, but both was not possible. Now, in order to make it possible to at least take advantage of certain terrain items, that was changed, and now you can move up to a quarter of the movement rate and still fire that weapon. Something that is now also introduced in the intermediate game, but in melee combat, is shield bonuses. Shield bonuses, and when we come to damage, also the usage of armor, because now we have different armors. Missile combat itself was also expanded because now we have partial cover. Very handy when you have lots of different sized objects on the playing surface, such as little rocks or barrels, and also open windows. Here we have the standard game. The standard game is the sweet spot, as I mentioned before, because Bladestorm comes along with a lot of different options that you can use, but the standard game was improved with some of the options from the old game, but then again the optional rules have more options now, so the standard game is what we believe the sweet spot between complexity and time efficiency. We go ahead and still have the standard chapters on dice rolls and environment, the terrain effects, but then we go on and have something that's also new. We now have these combatant cards. The combatant cards are standardized cards now that enable you to use templates to build any kind of miniature. You can download these templates over at RPG Now and fill them out, send them to your printer, and you have your combatant for the game. So this is really a do-it-yourself game. Just to show you how it looks like, these are example combatant cards, and they are the protagonists of our little basic game encounter. We have this combatant card for the Sea Troll, one for Crow, the greater goblin, Ark, the lesser goblin, and Montu, also a lesser goblin. Now the turn sequence of the standard game is again improved, but this is now the final, for the standard game, the final turn sequence diagram. Again, we start with the initiative, then player 1 moves or does a missile attack or casts a spell. Then player 1 rallies, meaning he tries to get people who freaked out in the heat of the battle to get them back under control. Then player 1 does melee attacks, and the same goes again for player 2. Here we have the terrain effects. Terrain effects come, of course, for all kinds of different things that you want to place on the battlefield. We have clear brush, light woods, medium woods, heavy woods, streams, slope, impassable, and buildings. One thing that is very important for Bladestorm is that it uses square bases. And here you see the reason why that is, because each miniature has a front, a side, and a rear arc. And of course, when you stand at the side of the miniature or in its back, you have an enhanced possibility to deal damage. Here go the melee combat rules. Again, terrain modifications. Here we have flank and rear attacks. And again, the explanation of how damage resolves work and how armor basically protects you. On we go with the missile combat. Range modifications, of course, you can shoot at everything that is in your front firing arc. Here an explanation on who to hit and who not to hit. Some rules have been moved from the optional rules into the standard rules, something like firing into melee, because this is a pretty standard situation. If you have an adventure party somewhere on the map, you have probably fighters or somebody who has already engaged the enemy. And when you want to fire into the melee, chances are you will hit your friends and your buddies. Here we have the chapter on morale and how it affects. Then come units. Units are, well, the same miniatures, or not the same miniatures, but equally equipped combatants that use a formation to attack. And these units are organized by a unit card. The unit card looks quite similar to the standard combatant card, only that it does not have this leader area because it's all the same combatants in that unit, and units do not consist of spellcasters, so you have a different card for them. Here are different do's and don'ts for how to set up and move your unit. And here is an explanation on how movement is done with units, and of course terrain affects units a little bit differently than it does standard single combatants. Units move and turn with a wheel. And then of course we have morale rules also for units. Something that's happening over and over again in the game is that your combatants might be affected by a failed morale roll. So when your combatant has lost half of its endurance points, they tend to freak out. So you make a morale roll, 3d6, and if you succeed, nothing happens. Just keeps it together. If the morale roll fails, you're no longer in good, but then the combatant is disrupted or a unit is also disrupted. Combatants cannot go lower than disrupted. If they continue to fail, they will just flee. Units can go from disrupted to routed, and then it's even harder to get them back together. So this chart helps you with one glance to analyze the situation that your characters or units are in and take it from there. Here come the special combatants. Special combatants are leaders, or spell users, or, which is also now new, heroes and monsters with a lot more depth. Heroes and monsters was just 2 or 3 lines in the first edition of Bladestorm. Now we have expanded on that significantly by introducing professions. Professions are a concept that is also known from the Rolemaster role-playing game. The professions there match the professions that you will find in this book. Also, coming from each profession is organized in a certain kind of realm. And the Rolemaster introduces the realm of arms, which covers professions like the fighter, the assassin, rogue, barbarian, the warrior monk, or the realm of channeling, which has the cleric and the druid, the realm of essence, which has the magician and the illusionist, and the realm of mentalism, which has the mentalist and the lay healer. There are 14 professions in the book, and each profession brings passive and active skills, as you can see here. This is just a sample graphic to show you what with a typical fighter might look like in the game. And if he has a profession, well, if your regular combatant gets a profession, he gets certain effects that are shown here. And he gets to choose skills or raise skills in between games from passive and active. There's a number of skills that are similar, like the one-handed and the pole arms and the blocking skill, but each profession will have one unique skill, like the fighter specials down here. Like self-invitation, he can basically waltz over doors, or has a tumbling attack or a tumbling evasion, or legendary stamina. So we go on and we have 14 hero professions that we can use to build an adventure party. Here's the rogue, then the warrior monk. The warrior monk, of course, excels with martial arts. I should note that the passive skills are always active. They're improvement to your stats, and the active skills that you can see here, they can be activated in battle. Rank 1, special 1, can be activated 4 times. Take note when you activate it. Special 2 can be activated 3 times, Special 3 can be activated 2 times, and Special 4 is so strong it can only be activated once each game. Of course, when you raise these and when you develop your characters, you start with rank 1 and you cannot buy rank 2 if you do not have rank 1. So you buy rank 1, special 1, or rank 2, special 2, rank 3, special 3, rank 4, special 4. And then you have a fully developed martial arts fighter. On we go with the cleric, druid, we have a magician, illusionist, the mentalist, of course heavily working on those on the spells that have been included from the realm of mentalism, and the lay healer. Since these are also magic enabled character professions, their special powers that we have here, the lay healer or the mentalist special, are based on the spell lists that are associated with the corresponding Rolemaster characters. So when you were used from the Rolemaster role-playing game to have a character that has certain lists, spell lists available to him because he is of a certain profession, then of course you will note these spell lists here again. Armsmaster, Ranger, and we finish with the Paladin. To make the introduction of these characters easier into your game, we have provided archetypes. So here is the profession card. The profession card is also, you can get it off RPG Now and print it out. You do not have to stick with these kind of characters here, the archetypes. You can build your own, and basically any combatant that you build with the Bladestorm rules can be made into a hero by just adding the profession card to him. The profession card includes, of course, the name of the profession, the bonuses and the restrictions. It tells you then what the 4 skills are that you can have, and it enables you also to keep track of what skills you have raised. By just, you can put a little dot in there or mark it. Here come the card combos. So we have sample characters that we built, and we gave them a profession. In this profession card you see a couple of gold noted ones. Those are the ones that he already has. So this is pretty an early access fighter or barbarian, and he has the first skill ranks in two-handed, his character power, and he has a passive and an active skill. So we have these archetypes for all 14 heroes. Then comes the next chapter, spells. Spells and magic have been improved quite a lot over first edition, and I'm going to give you a little rundown here. Channeling magic is basically magic given to you by a deity. So it goes on to explain what channeling is and how to include channeling into the game. And then we go on and we have channeling spells in 5 levels. This is level 1. And each level of spells has a number of regular spells and a selection of very, very evil spells. So if you want to make a real bad guy, like the boss entity of your dungeon, and he is an evil priest, you can give him spells from this kind of list. He can cause cramps, hearing loss, gray vision, bleeding, and wounding. And this basically goes on also with level 2 spells, level 3, level 4, and level 5. When you encounter these kind of table setups inside the spells, it usually means that you can summon a creature. Later on in the appendix of the book, we have preset characters. So when you cast a demonic gate, you can go ahead and summon a demon, and depending on the amount of power points that you want to expend for summoning that demon, you can select one just pre-made from the list to make it just quicker. But you can use this table to customize the demon that you want to get. Once we are finished with channeling magic, here comes essence. Essence magic is everything that enables you to manipulate matter. So that the standard, really the illusionist or the magician, they're the typical essence users. And it goes the same way. We have a couple of regular spells, and each spell level is accompanied also by a selection of distinctly evil spells: binding, pain, sprain leg, when compared to leaving, light, night vision, or resist elements. And just like in channeling magic, we have 5 levels to go on, to draw spells from. And of course also here we have the possibility to summon entities. Here comes a chapter that is completely new. The previous spells were considerably improved from and corrected from first edition because they mixed some spells in between channeling and essence. Everything was worked over and compared with the spell law book from Rollmaster to actually represent the real spells in their real order with their real effects. And while we were at it, we added mentalism. Mentalism is the kind of magic done by mentalists, of course, and it uses your brain to manipulate your entities, your opponents. So you can cause their sight to, you can blur yourself or appear blurred, cause hatred, which is a lot, this is a very, very fun spell actually. It causes your opponent to hate one of his own group so much that he starts to attack him instead of you. And of course, there's also evil mentalist spells. You can make your enemies forget things, lose experience, or invade their mind and do bad things through their hands. And this continues, of course, for level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And just have a look. Here come the optional rules.